Ugh. Hello everyone, welcome back to Revenge of the Flying Dutchman. It's time for the Tree Dome level, and we have a Sandy to talk to.
I got all fired up after our karate match and wanted to practice some more, but I guess I got carried away because I accidentally poked some holes in the dome. This place is filling up faster than 11 gallons in a 10-gallon hat.
What can I do to help?
See if you can find something to plug the holes in the dome. You've got to plug all the holes to stop the water from coming in.
So yeah, that is the task at hand. The Tree Dome level is pleasant enough. It's pretty short, as you will see. Spoilers, I finished the level in this video. Cause, I mean, yeah, it really only has 2 sections. You know, this part here, and then up in the branches later on. And, it's pretty simple. There are a lot of letter tiles that are just standing around. But it's nice enough, you know, it's a nice, easy level, and it's a kind of early reprieve because the next few levels are pretty huge and have a few tasks that are much more complicated. I mean, they're not incredibly complicated as far as video games go, but as far as this game goes, they're some of the more tedious and involved things that you need to do, especially compared to just, you know, throw the shit in the holes. You know, you'll see, the rest of the tasks in this level are pretty undemanding. But this and the next level, which is Jellyfish Fields, which I don't feel bad spoiling because it was mentioned before. And also it's like one of the main locales of SpongeBob. I feel like you would probably expect it to be in a video game of it, but yeah, it's this and that one are both very pretty, like, springy green landscapes, and they're very nice. And here I am sucking complete dong at getting this acorn in here. You can just stand. The easiest thing to do, which I do here, is to just stand and let it flop off your belly, because it does get a little bit of height when you do that, but yeah, you have to actually aim like a not moron. And yeah, this is like what half of the letter tiles in this level are like. They're just kind of sitting there in mostly open space. And I don't know what those leaves deal is. I don't know if they like flap down or something. I always try to get off them really quickly. And this wheel part is not hard. It doesn't go very fast, but it's kind of jittery and I don't know. It doesn't feel good, but you just have to, and you're doing it for like a long time. But whatever. This is one of those things in a game that's so simple that like I'm always anxious I'm gonna fuck it up, because it's just like, well, you know, I have to do it all again, and it's doing nothing but just like inching forward every couple seconds. But like, it's one of those things where you have to be paying attention a little bit, even though the thing you're doing isn't like interesting or difficult. I don't know. I'm gonna drink some water. Gotta stay hydrated. So, before we get too deep into this video, because it's not very long, I unfortunately am going to spend some time now talking about this pandemic shit. I've kind of tried to not talk about it in videos so far, because it doesn't really have to do with anything that I'm doing in these videos, and I imagine it's something that a lot, if you're like me, you're probably watching YouTube videos like this to try and not think about, because it is, especially if you are like me and live in the United States, where our healthcare system doesn't even work to keep people healthy in a normal scenario, let alone in a pandemic. it's very depressing and very scary because it's going to get worse before it gets better, and a lot of people are going to be sick and vulnerable and financially in the weeds and not really knowing what they're going to do. Fortunately, I had my last day of work for a while today, and we're closed for at least the next couple of weeks. I don't know how long it's gonna be that everything is shut down and weird. I guess no one really does, because we evidently lowballed the severity of this thing and did not prepare for it whatsoever. The government doesn't really seem too interested in doing anything about it other than injecting a bunch of fake money into the stock market so that investors don't lose their money. Meanwhile, the amazing compromise emergency bill that the House passed that the Senate will not even take up. They're just refusing to right now. And it almost certainly won't pass because Republicans are just against it for some reason. Only gives sick leave, paid sick leave, to 20% of the workers in the country. It exempts companies with more than 500 employees, which, as you can imagine, is most of them. Well, I guess not most companies, but the vast majority of workers are working for those companies. And obviously, you know, the stock market is crashing at an alarming rate. The big money men are selling off their fake money in large quantities, and for some reason this affects me and a bunch of other normal people who had nothing to do with those decisions, because that's the only way that you can do the economy, apparently. And yeah, as I'm not at all the first person to make this point, but, you know, we can hope that this whole thing will, you know, I believe it's sort of laid bare a lot of the fundamental problems with not just our healthcare system, but just the way that our society works in general here. And, you know, maybe that'll wake people up to the fact that, you know, yeah, as it turns out, having a healthcare system that prioritizes, you know, keeping people healthy and saving lives is better than one that literally exists to deny care to people for profit. So, you know, if 1 million Americans dying of a disease that other countries are, you know, they're certainly not, like, you know, all peachy keen, but they're handling it, and, you know, the people that live there can at least go to the fucking doctor to get tested for it without thinking that they're gonna go into bankruptcy. Yeah, maybe it'll wake people up to the fact that having a you know, a situation where I think last I saw it was 70% of Americans can't hack a $1,000 emergency expense. They would have to borrow a lot of that money from somebody, or just, you know, not do food or something that month. Or, you know, get another job or something. Yeah, having the majority of the people in your country at such a level of financial precarity all the time, and with an absolutely gutted social safety net and, you know, sort of managerial competence being eradicated, because on top of all of the, you know, just built-in structural failings, you have the used car salesman president who has put a bunch of just fucking, like, I don't even, just Adam Sandler in Uncut Gems. Just everybody in the government is that, and they're all people who just believe that the agency they're in charge of shouldn't exist. And yeah, maybe people will see that and say, huh, maybe there's something that we've been doing fundamentally wrong this whole time. I don't know if they will. I don't know if it'll even really matter if they do, because who knows? I have a little bit of hope because this is at least impacting people here more directly than any other past, disaster that has called into question, had the potential for creating political or class consciousness. And we've resisted it this whole time, it seems. Old people are completely unbothered, which is insane because they're literally the ones at most risk. I saw a survey that like 30% of Republicans say that they are, not gonna do big public gatherings during this, which, is what everyone should be avoiding doing. And young people aren't exempt, of course. There are still people going to bars and clubs and stuff and, just saying, well, I'm young, so I detox or whatever, I wash my hands, so I'll be fine. And that's not about that. Making sure other people don't get sick who are more vulnerable than you is another important thing. I don't know. None of these are original thoughts about any of this. It's just, again, it's the only thing that's happening. It's all that anybody can think about because it has literally ground the entire, or I guess grinded would be the appropriate word in this case. It has grinded everything in the world to a halt. And it certainly has me pretty anxious. I have no idea. I mean, we've just entered the Twilight Zone this year, not just with the outbreak. I mean, the outbreak is just the biggest, example of it, but in general, the last few months, I've just felt absolutely through the looking glass. And yeah, I lost a good bit of time dicking around on that bed, but it's okay. Sandy is a very easy opponent. And yeah, there was some other move that you can do that she was talking about. I don't bother with that. I don't know what to talk about. And, Liv has been extremely anxious. She was before this, going through a kind of funk, and this has just made a bad situation worse there. And just all the uncertainty about what will be open, what we'll be able to do, if we'll be able to go home after a certain point, how long this is gonna go on. I don't know if I'm gonna get paid after these 2 weeks. Those are the only weeks that they've said anything about, so after that, I really don't know. But we'll see, and I hope that, you watching this, if you're watching this when it's uploaded, and this is a really funny camera angle, by the way. I was really hoping that I would be in center frame, and I've been trying to do, like, a funny position for all of the SpongeBob spinning around before these things. And I don't know why I cut out the bubble transition in some parts and left it in and sped it up in others. I'm just a lazy idiot, and I'm not gonna change it now. And yeah, this treasure is in an extremely easy to find place. Because again, this level is incredibly small. I mean, not including those cutscenes and loading times, I think it took me like 10 minutes to beat this whole thing. It's basically like a little mini level, like an extension of Bikini Bottom almost. But like I said, it's a good contrast because especially the next level, but really the next two are pretty large. Jellyfish Fields has like 1 million sections. But yeah, if you're watching this as it's being uploaded and as all of this shit is going on, I hope that you are okay and that, you're dealing with things okay and that you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. avoiding crowds and washing your hands and not touching your face. That's been the by far hardest thing for me to do, because apparently all I fucking do is touch my face, I've noticed, these last couple weeks. And, you know, I believe that we'll see the other side of this, but it's just very overwhelming and shit. And I know I was not gonna talk about it for the entire video, but look at that. That's exactly what I've did. But it's something I've been thinking about. I have to get it off my chest. I promise you, for the next few videos, at least, I will try to avoid it and talk about other normal, stupid shit that I talk about in these videos like normal. There are a million things I wanted to comment on in this video that I didn't because of this, but we'll get to them. I'll see you next time for Jellyfish Fields.